stand united against the void for all.
What if the architects of the DC multiverse crossed the final boundary and stepped into a realm ruled not by gods, but by living cosmic laws that could erase even their legacy? Space doesn't scream when it breaks, but in this moment, it hesitates. Across the infinite Marvel cosmic realms, beyond the farthest reach of the living tribunal's awareness, something foreign presses against reality. Galaxies slow, celestials pause mid-judgment. Even eternity feels a pressure along his endless spine, like a memory that does not belong to him trying to be remembered. And then a white fracture tears through the superflow, not violent, not chaotic, but deliberate, as if reality itself has been edited. From within that impossible wound steps Perpetua. She does not arrive as a conqueror, she arrives as a correction. Her presence bends the cosmic hierarchy instantly. The abstract entities of Marvel Infinity, Death, Oblivion feel her before they understand her. She is older than their balance, older than their rules. She is the hand that once shaped multiverses before concepts like order were assigned custodians. Behind her, time ripples again and the legion of superheroes emerges in formation, not as soldiers, but as witnesses to history about to be rewritten. Saturn Girl grips her temples as thoughts echo from futures that no longer align. Brainiac 5's calculations begin failing the moment they touch Marvel's cosmology. Mon-El clenches his fists, sensing power here that does not fear Kryptonians or gods. This universe is alive in a different way. Perpetua looks out upon the Marvel cosmic realms with something dangerously close to disappointment. So this, she says softly, her voice vibrating through dimensions, is a multiverse that allowed itself to be ruled by abstractions. Her words travel. They reach nowhere, where the severed head of a celestial trembles. They reach the Black Order, where Thanos' quiet contemplative opened his eyes, feeling a pressure that reminds him of nothingness before birth. They reach the farthest throne of the living tribunal, whose three faces turn in unison for the first time in eons. Something has entered creation that does not ask permission. The Legion realizes it too late. This wasn't a journey. It was an incursion of authorship. Cosmic awareness surges. The Watchers break their oath, not by acting, but by panicking. U-R2 stares into the fracture and whispers, she does not belong to any side of existence. Perpetua raises her hand. Stars dim not extinguished, but reassigned, as if their purpose has been temporarily suspended. She studies the cosmic balance like an unfinished sculpture, seeing flaws where others see harmony. Your eternity is localized, she murmurs. Your death negotiates. Your order requires enforcement. Her eyes narrow. How fragile. Brainiac 5 finally speaks, voice strained. This universe operates on sentient constants. If you destabilize them, Perpetua doesn't look at him. I am not destabilizing, she replies. I am testing. And somewhere beyond space, eternity finally reacts, manifesting, not in full, but enough to push back. The Marvel multiverse flexes its will for the first time since Perpetua arrived, as if saying, we are not yours to rewrite. The air thickens. Concepts lean toward conflict. Because this universe has defenders, not heroes, not gods, but principles that fight back. And Perpetua smiles, not because she is threatened, but because for the first time in countless eternities, something has dared to resist her presence. What happens when a universe built on living concepts decides it will not be rewritten, calls its judges, executioners, and embodiments to stand in unison? The resistance is not an explosion, it is a convergence. Eternity does not roar, he expands. Across the Marvel cosmic realms, every star, every timeline, every possibility aligns into a single, endless silhouette, stretching beyond sight. His voice does not echo, exists everywhere at once, layered with every moment that ever was or will be. You are not of this totality. The declaration rolls through Perpetua like a tide meeting an immovable continent. Around her, the fracture she created begins to narrow, reality attempting to cauterize the wound. Infinity coils beside eternity like a luminous serpent, time folding and unfolding in her wake. Death appears last, silent, hooded, her presence colder than the void between universes. The Legion feels it immediately, the pressure of rules. Saturn Girl gasps as trillions of minds brush against hers at once. Cosmic awareness here is not distant or aloof. It is personal. Brainiac 5's systems overload as equations suddenly acquire intent. Evil Mon-El, invulnerable to suns and annihilation, feels small. Perpetua tilts her head, studying them the way a master architect studies a structure built by apprentices. So these are your wardens, she says. Your multiverse delegated its sovereignty. Oblivion stirs from beneath everything, a shadow without edge or depth. When he speaks, it is absence given sound. You threaten the balance. Perpetua finally laughs, but it is restrained, almost fond. No, I threaten stagnation. She gestures, and with that single motion, the Legion witnesses something impossible. A memory of another multiverse bleeds into view. Not DC, not Marvel, something older, raw. A cosmos without anthropomorphic concepts, where creation answered only to its maker. You personified inevitability, Perpetua continues. You chained infinity to sentience. You taught death to bargain. Her eyes burn brighter. You made reality complacent. The living tribunal manifests fully then, towering, trifaced, each aspect representing a law so absolute that even gods kneel. Judgment, necessity, equity. Space bends under his presence. Your authority is unrecognized, the tribunal declares. You exist outside our jurisdiction. Perpetua steps forward. So do errors, she replies. And for the first time, she pushes. Not an attack and edit, a subtle overwrite in the fabric of cosmic law. Infinity recoils as her endlessness briefly stutters. Death stiffens, her scythe humming as if uncertain what it is meant to claim. Eternity's form ripples, sections of his being momentarily undefined. The Legion stares in horror. She is not fighting the abstracts. She is reauthoring the assumptions they are built on. Brainiac 5 shouts, she's treating them like outdated protocols. Thanos appears then, standing upon a drifting fragment of space near Death herself. His eyes narrow, not in fear, but recognition. She predates consequence, he murmurs. That makes her dangerous. Galactus arrives in a blaze of cosmic fire, drawn by hunger that suddenly feels irrelevant. He hesitates, sensing that even he may be unnecessary in the shape of things to come. Eternity surges, trying to envelop Perpetua, completely an entire universe attempting to swallow a single being. It fails. Perpetua stands untouched, her form now radiating the quiet certainty of a creator who remembers when universes were obedient. This realm survives because it has never been challenged by its maker, she says softly. I am not your enemy. Her gaze shifts to the Legion. You are my proof of concept. Saturn Girl feels it, then a future collapsing, another igniting. A war not of armies, but of definitions. Heroes versus principles. Creation versus governance. And somewhere deep within the Marvel multiverse, something ancient and primal stirs, something even the abstracts rarely acknowledge. Because if Perpetua continues, the cosmos itself may be forced to choose who truly owns existence. What if the Marvel universe sold his secret something, even eternity? Fears awakens in response to Perpetua's defiance, and the Legion realizes they may have crossed into a war no hero was meant to witness. The stirring begins beneath everything, not below space, not beneath time, beneath meaning. Oblivion recoils first, his formless presence shuddering as if something older than absence itself has shifted. The living tribunal's central face tightens not in anger, but in calculation. Even Death turns her head, the first hint of uncertainty rippling through her eternal stillness. Perpetua feels it too. Her smile fades not into fear, but into focus. So, she murmurs, voice low, almost reverent. You hit it well. The Legion senses a pressure unlike anything they've faced, not like Darkseid, not like the Anti-Monitor, not even like Perpetua herself. This is not a being, it is a condition, a foundational truth, the Marvel multiverse buried deep, allowed to exist only as a last resort. Eternity speaks, slower now. This is not your concern. Perpetua turns toward the endless form. Everything foundational is my concern. Reality fractures not outward, but inward. The Marvel cosmic realms peel back layer by layer, revealing a conceptual abyss where no stars burn and no timelines branch. From within it, a presence begins to define itself. The first firmament awakens, not fully, not yet, but enough. A voice echoes not across space, but across precedent. I remember a time before fracture, before multiplicity. The Legion is overwhelmed. Saturn Girl collapses to one knee, visions assaulting her realities where Marvel never diversified, where all existence remained singular, ordered, absolute. Brainiac 5's mind races, realizing the implication with terror. It's the original universe, he whispers, the one that existed before everything splintered, before concepts were allowed autonomy.
Mon-El clenches his fists. Then why does it feel like it hates us? Galactus bows his head instinctively. He has fed on universes, but this is something he once served without knowing. Perpetua steps closer to the abyss, her presence steady, unyielding. You were replaced, she says to the awakening firmament. Fragmented so creation could breathe. The first firmament's awareness sharpens, and you were exiled. The words hit harder than any blow. The cosmic entities freeze. Perpetua's eyes darken not with rage, but with memory. I was betrayed by my creations, she replies, by multiverses that feared their origin. The Legion finally understands the scale of what stands before them. This is not DC versus Marvel. This is creator versus creation on two fronts at once. Eternity surges again, desperate now. If you ally, everything ends. Perpetua does not deny it. She looks back at the Legion, and for the first time, her voice carries something almost human. History is decided by who dares to reset it. The first firmament's presence grows, drawn to her defiance, to her familiarity with abandonment. Two ancient architects, cast aside by evolving realities, now aware of one another. Thanos watches, eyes blazing. If they unite, he murmurs, there will be no balance left to restore. Saturn Girl screams, as futures collapse into a single horrifying through-line, a universe returned to singularity. No heroes, no villains, no choice, just order. Perpetua extends her hand toward the abyss, not in command, in invitation, and the Marvel multiverse holds its breath. What if the moment that could end all stories is stopped, not by gods or cosmic judges, but by heroes from a future that was never meant to exist in this universe? Perpetua's hand hangs in the void between her and the first firmament, the space around it vibrating as if reality itself is unsure whether to close the distance or flee from it. The invitation is clear. Two architects, abandoned by their creations, standing on the edge of reunion, and then interference. A sharp psychic snap slices through the tension. Saturn Girl screams, not in pain, but in exertion, her mind flaring brighter than it ever has before. No, this future cannot happen, she cries, blood trickling from her nose as she forces her thoughts outward, threading them through eternity, through infinity, through every sentient concept she can touch. The Legion moves as one. Brainiac 5 shouts commands faster than sound, his intellect running ahead of causality itself. We don't fight them. We destabilize the alignment. This universe runs on consensus. Break that, and the union collapses. Cosmic Boy steps forward, his powers straining against forces that should crush him instantly. Magnetic fields twist, pulling fragments of shattered reality into a spinning barrier between Perpetua and the abyss. Lightning Lad unleashes a surge not electrical but chronal, borrowed from the future's dying seconds. Mon-El flies straight toward Perpetua, not in attack but defiance. You don't get to decide that existence made a mistake. For the first time, Perpetua looks surprised, not by the power, but by the audacity. You are children of a timeline that should never touch this realm, she says. You are echoes. Saturn Girl forces herself to stand, eyes blazing with futures she refuses to surrender. Echoes still matter. The living tribunal reacts instantly, seizing the opening. His three faces speak in fractured harmony. Intervention accepted, temporary alliance authorized. Eternity surges, wrapping the Legion in living starlight, amplifying their presence. For a fleeting moment, the heroes are no longer intruders. They are variables, protected by the universe's will to survive. The first firmament recoils, its awakening stuttering as conflicting narratives crash against it. This multiplicity is noise, it declares. IT weakens creation. Perpetua lowers her hand slowly, not in retreat, but in recalculation. You defend chaos with conviction, she says, studying. The Legion with new interest. That is inefficient, but impressive. Thanos steps forward now, his voice carrying across the void. You see disorder, he tells her. I see meaning born from struggle. Without it, nothing chooses to exist. Death's presence shifts, subtle but undeniable. For the first time since Perpetua arrived, her gaze turns toward the Legion, not as potential harvest, but as necessity. The alliance fractures the moment. The first firmament begins to sink back into dormancy, not defeated, but postponed. Its final echo lingers like a threat carved into eternity. This ice not concluded. Perpetua exhales slowly, the cosmos around her settling into a fragile equilibrium. Very well, she says. I will not reset this realm. Hope surges, and dies just as quickly. Not yet. Her eyes lock onto Saturn Girl. But your future, Perpetua continues softly, fascinates me. The Legion feels it then, the terrifying certainty that they have not stopped the war. They have merely become its center. And somewhere, in a future that is already rewriting itself, Perpetua begins to plan. What if Perpetua doesn't need to destroy the Marvel Universe at all? What if she only needs to steal its future, and the Legion suddenly realizes time itself is turning against them? The cosmos exhales, but the relief is false. Saturn Girl staggers backward as the futures in her mind begin to misalign, not vanish, rearrange. Paths she once saw as fixed, now bend toward unfamiliar outcomes, darker, quieter, colder. She presses her hands to her temples, whispering, "She's not attacking, she's redirecting." Perpetua drifts backward into the fractured light, her presence no longer confrontational but curatorial. Around her, fragments of possible tomorrows hover like glass shards, each reflecting a different version of what the Marvel Universe could become. "You misunderstand me," she says, her voice carrying a calm far more unsettling than rage. "I do not need to unmake this multiverse. I only need to ensure it evolves incorrectly." Brainiac 5's eyes widen as data floods his mind. She's mapping probability clusters. If she influences enough inflection points, the universe collapses into a singular ideological future, without ever knowing it was altered. Eternity surges again, alarmed. "You tamper with autonomy." Perpetua glances at him. "Autonomy is an illusion maintained by inertia." She gestures and time twitches. Across the Marvel cosmic realms, subtle changes ripple outward. A celestial pauses before judgment. A star destined to birth a new civilization flickers and dims instead. On a distant world, a child who would have become a hero is never born, not erased, just never chosen by fate. The Legion watches in horror as the edits compound. Lightning Lad shouts, "She's killing futures without killing anyone." Mon-El lunges forward again, but an invisible barrier stops him cold. It isn't force, it's finality. He slams his fist against it, rage and helplessness bleeding together. This is wrong. Perpetua meets his gaze. So was allowing infinite outcomes to pretend they all mattered equally. Thanos clenches his gauntletless hand, feeling something he hates: uncertainty. "You reshape destiny without sacrifice," he says. "That makes you worse than tyrants." Perpetua's expression hardens. "No, it makes me efficient." The living tribunal raises one colossal hand, channels of law blazing across his form. Cease or face nullification. For a moment it seems even Perpetua must yield. Then she smiles again. "You cannot judge what predates your authority." With a thought, she severs her temporal presence, not leaving, but desynchronizing. She exists now slightly ahead of the present, operating from a fraction of tomorrow the tribunal cannot yet reach. Saturn Girl screams as the sensation hits her like knives. She's outside the now. I can't track her. She's hiding in outcomes that haven't happened. The Legion clusters together, fear finally cracking their resolve. Brainiac 5 lowers his voice. "If she completes this, the Marvel Universe won't end. It'll become something static, predictable, dead without dying. Eternity's light dims, strained by a threat he cannot confront directly." And then Perpetua's voice echoes one last time, omnipresent and intimate. "I will return when this universe has chosen the wrong future often enough that it begs for correction." Silence follows, but it is the silence of a ticking clock. The Legion stands in a cosmos that feels the same yet already isn't. Somewhere ahead, a war is being fought in probabilities, not battles. And they are losing ground they cannot even see. Saturn Girl looks up, tears streaming down her face. She's turning tomorrow into her weapon, and none of them know how to fight a god who attacks from the future. What if the only way to stop a god rewriting tomorrow is to break the one rule every cosmic power depends on and risk collapsing time itself? The realization settles like a death sentence. They cannot chase Perpetua forward. She exists now in slivers of future probability, moving through outcomes before they harden into history. Every action the Legion considers already has a shadow already accounted for. Brainiac 5 seconds voice drops to a whisper, the sound of a mind racing at the edge of despair. She's using inevitability as camouflage. As long as the future remains singularly consistent, She's untouchable. Cosmic Boy looks around, fists clenched. Then we make it inconsistent. Eternity turns, his infinite form contracting just enough to listen. Chaos a T, that scale risks temporal fracture. Lightning Lad lets out a humorless laugh. So does letting her win. Saturn Girl wipes the blood from her lip, her eyes burning with a certainty that frightens even her teammates. There is one thing she cannot predict. Everyone looks at her. Choice without precedent, she continues. Not destiny, not probability. A decision that has never existed in any timeline. Brainiac 5 stiffens, an unrecorded action. A paradox. The living tribunal's three faces. Turn inward, conferring in silence. When he speaks, the weight of cosmic law trembles. Paradox is forbidden. Saturn Girl meets his gaze without flinching. So is extinction by slow design. A hush falls over the cosmic realms. Even death seems to pause, her scythe lowering just a fraction. Eternity exhales starlight. If you proceed, I cannot guarantee continuity. Mon-El steps forward. Then don't guarantee it. Just give us the chance. Perpetua feels it then, an irritation threading through her forward-situated awareness. A flicker of futures that suddenly refuse to line up. She pauses mid-thought, her expression sharpening. Interesting, she murmurs. You are attempting to weaponize uncertainty. Across the multiverse, the Legion acts. Not together out of sequence. Lightning Lad strikes before the thought completes. Cosmic Boy reverses polarity on reality fragments that should not yet exist. Saturn Girl deliberately chooses the wrong future. One she knows leads to her own erasure and pushes toward it with everything she has. Time convulses. The Marvel Universe stutters, not collapsing, but branching wildly, uncontrolled. For the first time since Perpetua arrived, probability explodes outward instead of narrowing. She materializes instantly, dragged back into the present by the sheer noise of infinite divergence. Her calm fractures into sharp annoyance. You would shatter causality to deny correction? She demands. Yes, Saturn Girl gasps, every time. Perpetua raises her hand, and freezes. For the briefest moment she cannot see beyond the next instant. The living tribunal seizes the opening, channels of judgment igniting. Eternity surges. Infinity wraps around the fractured timelines, struggling to keep them from tearing apart completely. Perpetua looks around, realizing what they have done. They haven't defeated her. They've locked her out. Her voice drops, cold and precise. This universe will suffer for this instability. Saturn Girl meets her stare, trembling but unbroken. Better to suffer freely than survive as a mistake. Perpetua's form begins to fade, not banished, postponed. Her last words echo like a promise carved into time itself. You have bought yourselves a future filled with fractures. I will return when you are desperate for order. Silence crashes down. The Legion stands amid a multiverse held together by will alone, knowing they've done something irreversible. Brainiac 5 exhales shakily. We save tomorrow. Saturn Girl closes her eyes, or doomed every day after it. And far beyond perception, beyond time's edge, Perpetua watches, waiting for the moment chaos becomes unbearable. What if saving the future didn't end the war, but transformed the Marvel Universe into something unstable enough to awaken threats even Perpetua feared? The fractures don't heal, they breathe. Across the Marvel cosmic realms, reality hums with a low, uneven rhythm, like a heart beating out of sync. Stars still burn. Time still moves forward. But underneath it all, something is wrong, something loose. Eternity strains, his infinite form threaded with hairline cracks of divergent possibility. The damage is contained, he says, but the hesitation in his voice betrays him. For now. Infinity coils tighter around the branching timelines, her glow flickering as she struggles to reconcile contradictions that refuse to collapse. Death stands apart from them all, silent, watching souls arrive in patterns she has never catalogued before. The Legion feels it immediately. Saturn Girl's psychic range is no longer linear. She hears futures overlapping, whispering over one another like arguments she can't silence. She grips Cosmic Boy's arm just to stay anchored to the present. I don't know which tomorrow is real anymore, she admits. Brainiac 5 scans the void, his voice hollow. All of them are, and none of them are dominant. That's when it happens. Something slips through. Not Perpetua. Not yet. A distortion forms near the edge of the superflow, subtle enough that only Galactus notices at first. His hunger spikes, not for planets, but for consistency. He turns slowly, eyes narrowing. This universe is bleeding potential, he rumbles, and something is feeding on it. The living tribunal reacts instantly, but too late. From the fracture emerges a presence neither abstract nor architect, something born because of the instability. A being shaped by contradiction, its form shifting between possibilities faster than sight can follow. It speaks in overlapping voices. I am the sum of what should not coexist. Saturn Girl screams as the sound crashes into her mind. Brainiac 5 seconds eyes go wide with dawning horror. It's a convergence entity, he whispers. A predator formed from unresolved timelines. Eternity recoils. This entity should not be possible. The creature turns toward him. Neither should I. Perpetua watches from beyond time, unseen but pleased. This was not her doing directly. This is what happens when order is denied too often. Thanos steps forward, gauntleted hand trembling despite himself. If more of those emerge, he says quietly, existence will drown in its own choices. The convergence entity shifts again, now towering, now collapsing inward, its very presence destabilizing, causality wherever it focuses its attention. Entire histories flicker and vanish just by being observed. Lightning Lad backs away slowly. Tell me this isn't on us. Saturn Girl swallows hard. It is. Eternity's voice deepens, resonant with grim resolve. The price of freedom has been paid in advance. The Legion understands the terrible truth all at once. By breaking inevitability to stop Perpetua, they have opened the door to threats born between decisions, things that no universe was designed to defend against. And this is only the first one. The convergence entity turns its many eyes toward the Legion, curiosity sharpening into hunger. You defy authors, it says. That makes you delicious. As cosmic forces gather for a battle no one planned for, Saturn Girl feels a distant certainty. Like a knife in her chest. Perpetua will return. And when she does, she won't be the worst thing waiting for them. What if defeating the creature born from broken timelines requires choosing which futures deserve to die, and the Legion is forced to play executioner to the very possibilities they fought to save? The convergence entity moves without motion. It doesn't fly or teleport, it reassigns relevance. One moment it is distant, observing. The next, it stands before the Legion, its shape flickering between realities that never agreed to exist together. Where it looks, probability collapses inward, crushed by contradiction. Eternity lashes out first, a wave of cosmic totality surging forward, attempting to subsume the entity into a unified narrative. The attack lands and passes through. The creature laughs in layered echoes. I am not a story. I am the argument between stories. Infinity screams as several timelines snap simultaneously, her form dimming as she struggles to hold on to versions of reality that are tearing themselves apart. Death steps back, scythe vibrating, uncertain what form of existence this thing can even end. Brainiac 5 shouts over the chaos. It can't be destroyed. It feeds on unresolved outcomes. The more futures exist, the stronger it becomes. Cosmic Boy's voice shakes. Then what do we do? Saturn Girl already knows. She just doesn't want to say it. We choose, she whispers. Lightning Lad stares at her. Choose what? Which futures get to continue? Saturn Girl says, tears streaking down her face as countless tomorrows flood her mind. And which ones don't? The words hit harder than any cosmic blow. Mon-El clenches his fists. That's what Perpetua wanted. Yes, Saturn Girl replies. But we're not doing it for order. We're doing it for survival. The convergence entity turns toward her, intrigued. She understands. Eternity hesitates, infinite eyes dimming. To collapse possibility is to become what you oppose. Saturn Girl steps forward anyway. No, it's to accept responsibility. She reaches into the chaos of futures and begins to cut. Not violently, carefully. Mercy in the shape of sacrifice. Entire timelines beautiful, tragic, heroic fade softly, never knowing they were loved. The convergence entity shrieks as its form destabilizes, pieces of itself unraveling as its fuel source disappears. It lashes out in desperation, erasing worlds mid-thought, but the Legion stands firm, shielding what remains. Lightning Lad channels energy into Saturn Girl, anchoring her to the present. Cosmic Boy stabilizes collapsing realities long enough for her to finish. Brainiac 5 calculates faster than ever before, guiding her toward futures that can support coherence. The creature convulses, its voices collapsing into one. You are no better than the architects. Saturn Girl looks up, exhausted, resolute. No. In worse. With one final decision, she seals the remaining timelines into a stable configuration. The convergence entity screams and implodes, folding into a silent knot of unrealized potential before vanishing entirely. The cosmos stills. Infinity slumps, her glow faint but steady. Eternity straightens, the cracks in his form sealing slowly. Death turns away, her task resumed. The Legion stands in the aftermath, shaken beyond words. Mon-El breaks the silence. We killed universes. Saturn Girl nods, hollow. And saved one. Far beyond time, Perpetua watches the moment with quiet satisfaction. They are learning, she murmurs. Learning the cost of freedom. The war has changed. It is no longer about stopping Perpetua, It is about whether the heroes can live with becoming something closer to her than they ever wanted to be. What if the cost of survival was only the beginning, and the Marvel Universe itself started to adapt, evolving defenses that even Perpetua could not predict? The silence following the collapse of the convergence entity is not peaceful. It is tense, stretched across stars, galaxies, and the fragile web of timelines that remain. Eternity exhales slowly, his voice like a trembling beacon. This universe, ice no longer innocent. Saturn Girl sways, holding herself steady against the psychic weight of the erased futures. Neither are we, she murmurs, eyes scanning the skies. The Legion feels the change too, something subtle, something living, rising from the foundations of reality itself. It is as if the Marvel Universe, scarred and unstable, is learning. From the depths of space, fragments of timelines snap into coherent form. Civilizations thought lost appear briefly, leaving echoes of their histories behind. Celestials pause mid-judgment, sensing that the rules they rely upon are no longer absolute. Galaxies begin to align differently, subtly reshaping energy flows, adjusting gravity, and bending probability around anomalies that once would have destabilized them. Brainiac 5 seconds calculations hum with impossible complexity. It's adapting, he breathes. The universe is reorganizing itself in response to our choices. It's creating safeguards against interference of this magnitude ever again. Mon-El watches distant stars flicker. So we survived, but nothing will ever be the same. Saturn Girl turns to the Legion, exactly. And Perpetua, she will notice. She always notices. Perpetua, still observing from her position outside the current flow of time, tilts her head. Her expression is unreadable, a mixture of interest and calculation. They are clever, she whispers, and unpredictable, a quality that will make the next stage fascinating. The living tribunal reappears fully, its three faces radiating authority. The continuity remains functional, temporary stability achieved. Yet even the tribunal's voice carries hesitation. This multiverse has learned lessons no abstract should teach, and every entity present senses it. Suddenly, a ripple pulses across the Marvel cosmic realms. It is faint, almost imperceptible, but every cosmic being feels it. From the edges of reality, a soft vibration resonates, like the universe's heartbeat quickening. Something awakens, not born of Perpetua, not entirely formed from probability, but emerging from the universe itself. Eternity's voice tightens. Something new is coming. A faint shimmer of energy coalesces in the distance, a sentient force formed from surviving timelines, a guardian born from sacrifice and choice. It is imperfect, volatile, untested, but alive and aware. Saturn Girl clenches her fists. If this is the universe's defense, then we are its catalysts. Lightning Lad looks around at the Legion, determination hardening his features. Then let's make sure it knows we're on its side. Mon-El adds, a rare smirk crossing his face. And let's hope Perpetua isn't ready for what comes next. The universe hums with a new energy, trembling with potential. Stars pulse brighter. Time bends subtly like a cautious breath, and far beyond perception, Perpetua watches and waits, her interest sharpened by the unpredictable evolution she has unintentionally inspired. For the first time, the Legion realizes that survival was not the end. It was the beginning of a war on a scale they cannot yet comprehend. What if surviving the convergence entity was only the beginning? And the Legion realizes that Perpetua's return will not wait for the universe to heal. The multiverse exhales, but the relief is fragile. Stars burn as before, but an undercurrent hums beneath them, a vibration that thrums with unfinished business. The fractures left by the convergence entity have not disappeared. They pulse, faintly, subtle as a heartbeat, like a warning hidden in the very fabric of reality. Saturn Girl senses it immediately, the psychic echoes slicing through her mind. Cher's already planning, she whispers, voice trembling. Cher's been watching everything we've done. And waiting. Brainiac 5 scans the residual anomalies, his calculations coming back with errors he has never seen. The universe is self-correcting, but these deviations, these fractures, they will be exploited. Perpetua doesn't just wait. She adapts to chaos. Cosmic Boy glares at the dimming horizon of stars. We stopped one threat. We barely survived. How can we face her? Mon-El clenches his fists, jaw tight. We face her the same way we always have. Together. Even if it kills us. Lightning Lad throws his arms outward. Surges of energy ripping across space in a display meant to reassure, but even he feels it. The weight of a future not entirely theirs. The first sign of Perpetua's return is subtle. A shimmer, almost like a ripple in space-time, streaks across the edge of reality. It is faint, and yet it carries intent. The Legion feels it collectively, a presence that does not merely exist but knows. It anticipates, manipulates, and plans centuries ahead while they are still catching up to seconds. Saturn Girl stumbles, clutching her head. Shez. Calculating our choices before we make them, she gasps. Every decision, every failure, every sacrifice, we're being guided into a pattern she already knows. Brainiac 5 grimaces. Which means, every plan we make now, she has already accounted for. We're always behind. Eternity manifests in his full glory, his form stretching across the multiverse, coiling around unstable realities. She-Ice no longer an intruder, he declares. She-Ice a constant, an inescapable variable. Death drifts closer, her scythe casting shadows across the remnants of collapsed timelines. And yet, mortality still has its rights, she murmurs. Even gods and architects can falter when confronted by endurance. Perpetua's voice, when it comes, is soft, almost intimate, echoing across the multiverse in a whisper that chills every soul it touches. I have observed. I have waited. And now, I will write again. The Legion realizes with a cold, sinking certainty. Stopping her this time will not be a battle of power. It will be a war of ingenuity, courage, and the willingness to sacrifice futures they have just begun to understand. Every choice they make from this point forward is already a line in her plan, and every misstep could cost not just their lives, but the stability of the multiverse itself. Saturn Girl straightens, blood still on her lips, eyes burning with a fierce determination. Then we'll fight on her terms. But we decide how we play the game. Mon-El steps beside her. And if we fail? She swallows, staring into the void. Then we fail with honor. A silence follows, not peaceful, but tense, a universe holding its breath. Far beyond the reach of time, Perpetua observes, calculating, patient. Her plan is already unfolding, and the Legion is now fully inside the web she has woven. Every decision, every instinct, every act of heroism becomes a thread she can twist. And somewhere deep in the uncharted corners of reality, the faintest pulse of potential stirs something older, something neither fully Marvel nor DC, sensing the approach of a force beyond reckoning. The battle for the multiverse has entered a new stage. This is no longer about survival. This is about outsmarting a being who is older than law, older than death, older than consequence itself. The Legion knows one truth now, clearer than ever. The universe may not survive her, but they will make her earn every inch of it. What if winning against Perpetua required more than power, more than strategy, and demanded the Legion confront the part of themselves that could become just like her? The universe remains fragile, humming with latent fractures, but for the Legion, the true danger is no longer external. It has moved inward. Saturn Girl feels it in her mind, the creeping awareness that in order to outmaneuver Perpetua, they may have to think like her, make choices that echo her logic, and flirt with the cold efficiency that defines a being who reorders existence without hesitation. Brainiac 5 steps forward, his expression grim. Every pattern she predicts is based on morality, on compassion, on hesitation. If we abandon those, just for a moment, we might gain leverage. But the cost, cosmic. Boy clenches his hands. I don't know if I'm willing to lose myself to save the universe. Mon-El shakes his head, staring at the distant stars that seem to pulse with unspoken threats. Then maybe you're not ready to survive this fight, because she will test us beyond what we think we are. Saturn Girl exhales, focusing her psychic vision. The threads of possible futures stretch before her like an endless web. We don't have the luxury of hesitation, she whispers. If we keep waiting for the perfect answer, she wins by default. A sudden ripple flashes across reality, a presence, unseen yet unmistakable. Perpetua has begun her return, not fully manifested, not yet corporeal, but enough that the multiverse itself bends subtly around her anticipation. Lightning Lad steps forward, eyes blazing. Shez already here, not as a being, but as intent, and intent can kill just as easily. Eternity's light flares, coiling around the Legion. She-Ice observing your minds, calculating each impulse. Every move you make will feed her strategy. This ice your trial. Saturn Girl swallows, heart hammering. Then we become unpredictable. We fight not only with strength, but with imagination, with chaos no algorithm can calculate. The Legion closes ranks, a silent understanding passing between them. They will play a new kind of game, one that Perpetua cannot foresee, because it relies on the unpredictable heart of heroes, their flaws and courage intertwined. A faint tremor shakes the foundations of the cosmic realms as Perpetua manifests, her form shimmering in impossible geometry, impossible colors, bending perception. Her eyes sweep across the Legion, seeing potential and failure in equal measure. So, she whispers, Voice like a cold wind across dead stars. You wish to play at my level? Very well. Let us see how much your chaos can cost you. Every thread of reality tightens. Futures twist and threaten to snap. The Legion knows this confrontation will demand everything they have, and a piece of themselves. They might never reclaim. Saturn Girl looks at her team, a silent vow passing between them. They may bend, they may struggle, but they will not break. Perpetua smiles, a shadow of patience and curiosity. She does not strike immediately. She tests, watches, waits for the first misstep. And the universe holds its breath, suspended on the edge of a war that is no longer just about survival, but about defining what it means to be alive. The battle for the multiverse is about to become personal. What if the fight against Perpetua demanded more than courage, more than ingenuity, and forced the Legion to confront the very essence of what makes them human and heroic, in the face of a god who sees all outcomes as tools? The cosmic air vibrates with anticipation, as if reality itself is holding its breath. Saturn Girl senses the weight pressing on her mind. Perpetua is not just observing them. She is interacting with their potential, nudging them toward paths they haven't yet walked, shaping the consequences of choices that are only beginning to exist. Lightning Lad charges forward, surges of energy crackling around him. But even his speed feels inadequate against a being who experiences time in multiple dimensions at once. Cosmic Boy swings his magnetic field around him, pulling together fragments of broken reality into a makeshift shield. Mon-El flies overhead, searching for an opening, but every path he takes seems anticipated before he can commit. Saturn Girl closes her eyes, drawing deep into her psychic reserves. "She's forcing us to see ourselves," she mutters. "Not our powers, but what we would become if we let go of morality, of empathy, if we accepted the cold logic that guides her." Brainiac 5 Seconds' fingers dance over a holographic interface that exists only in his mind, equations folding into paradoxes. If we succumb even slightly, he warns, we will become extensions of her design. Not allies, not enemies, but tools for rewriting the multiverse itself. The living tribunal manifests, immense and unyielding, his three faces reflecting judgment, necessity, and equity. To engage her directly is forbidden, he intones, yet you are allowed a single opportunity to resist. Perpetua's form flickers, a ripple in the fabric of existence, as though she is both present and beyond perception. So fragile, she whispers, voice threaded through every corner of the multiverse. So stubborn. You play a creation without understanding the rules, and yet, you persist. Saturn Girl clenches her fists. Persistence is the only thing she cannot calculate. She may see the paths, but she cannot foresee courage. Mon-El glances at her, understanding the unspoken challenge. They must fight not by matching her power, but by exploiting the one variable. Even she cannot control the unpredictability of intent guided by hope. Lightning Lad unleashes a storm of energy toward her, not to strike, but to distract, while Cosmic Boy bends magnetic fragments to create shifting cover and corridors of force that even Perpetua must account for. The Legion moves as one, a dance of improvisation and instinct. Perpetua smiles faintly, her attention drawn entirely to Saturn Girl. "So you lead," she observes. "Interesting. Perhaps I underestimated the subtlety of human and Kryptonian ingenuity." Saturn Girl reaches out psychically, feeling the threads of probability bending around her. She knows that the only way to disrupt Perpetua is to confront her at a personal level, to make her hesitate just enough, without risking total collapse. "We are not tools, we are choices," she whispers, more to herself than anyone else. The universe trembles, stars flare, time bends, and for the first time, Perpetua pauses, not in defeat, but in curiosity, because the Legion has done something she did not anticipate. They have made themselves unpredictable. And unpredictability, even in the face of a god who shapes realities, is dangerous. What if the only way to truly challenge Perpetua was to confront not just her power, but the truth she represents, and the Legion realize that doing so might demand a sacrifice greater than any they've ever known. The multiverse shivers as Perpetua steps fully into the present, her form immense yet fluid, bending light and probability around her. She does not attack immediately. Instead, she watches, measuring the Legion's resolve. Her eyes timeless, infinite, pierce into their very souls, seeing not only their powers but their fears, their doubts, their potential for corruption. Saturn Girl tightens her jaw, psychic energy radiating from her like a storm. "We can't fight her by strength," she mutters to the others. "She doesn't need to hurt us. She just needs to show us ourselves. And if we falter, we become her instruments." Brainiac 5 Seconds calculations flash across a mental interface only he can see. Shez probing for weakness, yes, but also for conviction. If we allow fear to dictate our choices, the multiverse itself becomes a tool of her will. Lightning Lad's lightning crackles unevenly as he hurls it across space, each bolt not aimed at Perpetua's form, but at the shifting threads of probability around her. Cosmic Boy bends metallic debris into a lattice that seems to exist between realities, a makeshift prism to scatter her attention. Mon-El hovers, fists clenched, staring into the impossible geometry of her presence. "Then we fight differently," he says, voice grim. "Not to win by brute force, but to survive our own potential for failure." Perpetua finally speaks, her voice a cascade of harmonics that seem to echo across time itself. "So predictable," she murmurs. "You fight because you must. You fear becoming what you are not. Yet here you are, defiant. I expected despair, but you choose resistance instead." Saturn Girl steps forward, psychic aura flaring brightly. "Resistance isn't about hope alone," she says. "It's about understanding the cost, and accepting it." The universe itself seems to bend closer, as if listening. Stars flicker, entire timelines pause mid-flow, and even eternity leans in, silent but tense. Death shifts her scythe, aware that the outcome here is not only survival, but the preservation of choice itself. Perpetua tilts her head, intrigued. "You understand the paradox. To resist, you must risk what you value most." Saturn Girl's mind races. Every future she has glimpsed in this universe, every possibility she has felt slipping away, converges into one burning clarity. "Then we risk it all," she declares. "Not because we are strong, not because we are perfect, because we must choose ourselves over the inevitability you would impose." Perpetua's gaze narrows, the first trace of hesitation flickering across her timeless face. The Legion senses it immediately, a subtle pause in the flow of her intent, a crack in the impossibility that surrounds her. Lightning Lad, Cosmic Boy, Mon-El, and Brainiac 5 all move as one, channeling every ounce of ingenuity, courage, and unpredictability into that moment. They are no longer reacting, they are initiating, forcing her to respond rather than dominate. The multiverse quivers, caught between her will and theirs. Futures bend, timelines shimmer, and for the first time, Saturn Girl realizes the truth. They cannot destroy Perpetua. They cannot outlast her. They can only make her see them as forces she cannot fully control. And in that brief, infinitesimal moment, the balance of power shifts ever so slightly. What if the Legion's defiance forces Perpetua to confront a truth she has long ignored? That even a being older than universes can be unsettled by the courage of those she deems insignificant. Perpetua freezes mid-motion, her form flickering between dimensions, colors bending into patterns that should not exist. The Legion watches, sensing the shift not in her power, but in her perception. For the first time, she hesitates. Not out of fear, not out of weakness, but curiosity. Saturn Girl steps forward, eyes blazing with psychic fire, every thought honed to a singular point. "You can see all outcomes. You can calculate everything, but you cannot calculate our will. You cannot force a choice that has already been made in our hearts." Brainiac 5 nods, adjusting his mental projections to exploit the tiniest inconsistencies in her multidimensional form. "Her calculations are destabilizing because of us. We are variables that refuse to obey logic." Cosmic Boy creates shifting magnetic constructs around Perpetua, not as a trap, but as a dynamic distraction, forcing her attention in ways she cannot fully anticipate. Lightning Lad's energy arcs over the latticework of probability, each strike synchronized with Saturn Girl's psychic pulses, fracturing her perception of continuity. Mon-El circles above, a living pivot, guiding the team's coordinated efforts with instinct and raw determination. Perpetua tilts her head, and for the first time there is unfamiliarity in her gaze. "Fascinating," she whispers. "You persist not because you must, but because you choose. Choice is unpredictable." The multiverse itself seems to respond to the tension. Stars shimmer and flicker as though holding their breath. Timelines twist around the Legion, not in collapse, but in resonance, reinforcing the paths of freedom they are fighting to preserve. Even eternity and infinity lean in, lending the weight of the cosmic order to this unprecedented rebellion. Saturn Girl presses forward, psychic aura flaring like a nova. "We don't have your knowledge, we don't have your experience, but we have each other, and that is something even you cannot calculate." Perpetua's expression hardens, but there is a flicker of respect, perhaps recognition of the audacity required to confront inevitability itself. "You frustrate me," she admits softly. "I expected despair, not this persistence." Lightning Lad arcs forward, a surge of lightning aimed not at her body, but at the probability threads connecting her to the multiverse. Cosmic Boy shifts metals in tandem, creating a living maze of disruption. Saturn Girl focuses on the moments that cannot yet exist, sending pulses of psychic interference through Perpetua's perception. The pause stretches. Time itself seems suspended. Even the living tribunal leans in, watching, his colossal form straining as he observes a dynamic he has never allowed before. And then, for the first time, Perpetua falters, not in power, but in her certainty. She recoils slightly, stepping back as if surprised by the audacity of beings she once considered minor players in the cosmos. Saturn Girl whispers, almost to herself, "Even gods can be wrong about the heart of heroes." The universe waits, every timeline hanging on the edge, as a confrontation that transcends power begins to take shape. Not a clash of might, but of principle. The Legion has done the impossible. They have made Perpetua pause. And in that pause lies a chance, a fleeting, terrifying, glorious chance, to change the rules of the multiverse forever. What if the Legion realized that to truly challenge Perpetua, they had to strike at her perception of inevitability itself, and risk unraveling the very laws of reality? The pause is not empty, it is electric with possibility. Perpetua's gaze sweeps across the Legion, searching for the flaw that will allow her to reclaim dominance. But Saturn Girl knows that the key to survival is not force, it is disruption. They cannot outmatch her strength. They cannot outrun her foresight. But they can make her doubt, even briefly, the certainty of her own calculations. Every probability she calculates is based on what she expects us to fear, Saturn Girl whispers. If we stop fearing, we break her map of the future. Brainiac 5 nods, sweat beading his brow as he overlays countless calculations. We're not just fighting her power, we're fighting the concept of inevitability itself. That's dangerous. But it might be our only option. Mon-El hovers, fists clenched, determination burning in his eyes. Then we do it. We risk the universe itself, if that's what it takes. Lightning Lad surges forward, sending arcs of energy not to attack Perpetua, but to interfere with the lattice of probability she has imposed on reality. Cosmic Boy manipulates the surrounding metal and fragments of shattered worlds, creating constantly shifting interference patterns that even Perpetua must account for. Saturn Girl channels the Legion's collective effort into her mind, reaching into the multiverse's own underlying structure, touching the threads of potential that Perpetua has woven into every timeline. We don't just survive, she murmurs. We become unpredictable. We become chaos she cannot calculate. Perpetua flinches, just slightly, a movement imperceptible to anyone else. But to Saturn Girl, it is the most significant victory yet. The pause stretches, a moment where a being older than universes doubts a calculation she has made countless times before. Eternity's voice thunders across the void. This is unprecedented. You are not merely interfering, you are forcing adaptation in a cosmic architect. Death shifts her scythe, her attention keen. Even gods and architects can falter when confronted by living, breathing intent, she murmurs. Perpetua's voice, calm yet edged with curiosity, carries across the shifting cosmos. You are different. Unseen variables, stubborn to the point of audacity. You might actually be instructive. Saturn Girl meets her gaze, psychic aura flaring brighter than ever. We choose. Even if the future is already written, we choose ourselves. That is the one thing you cannot control. The multiverse shudders. Threads of reality warp and stretch as the Legion, working together in perfect improvisation, push Perpetua to the edge of uncertainty. For the first time she hesitates fully, her own perception of inevitability disrupted. And in that infinitesimal moment, the Legion realizes a terrifying, exhilarating truth. They may not defeat Perpetua, but they can force her to adapt, and adaptation for a being like her carries its own risk. The universe holds its breath. What if the Legion discovered that the smallest acts of defiance could ripple across infinity, forcing Perpetua into a struggle she had never truly faced before? The stillness after their last strike is deafening. Perpetua hovers in the void, her presence folding and unfolding like impossible origami, colors and geometries shifting in ways the human mind cannot comprehend. Every fraction of time she had once dominated now trembles. She is powerful beyond reckoning, yet there is hesitation, a faint tremor in her timeless confidence. Saturn Girl's psychic senses flail through the chaos of potential futures. She sees countless possibilities flickering, some stabilizing, some collapsing, and realizes that every small disruption they've created has begun to multiply. We're not just fighting her, she murmurs. We're teaching her resistance. Brainiac 5 seconds mind races, plotting sequences and outcomes at speeds that feel impossible even to him. Every deviation we've caused has grown exponentially. Even Perpetua must account for anomalies now. She can anticipate power, but she cannot fully predict ingenuity. We're creating learning curves for her. Mon-El floats above the battlefield, scanning for openings. So what does that mean? He asks. She's learning from us? Yes, Saturn Girl replies, eyes blazing. And every choice she makes to counter us weakens her predictability. We are rewriting how she experiences resistance. Lightning Lad surges again, not at her body, but at the threads of probability twisting around her. Cosmic Boy bends fragments of the battlefield into ever-shifting mazes. The Legion moves as a unit of improvisation, anticipation, and defiance, forcing Perpetua to respond, to react, to adapt. Perpetua tilts her head, a strange expression crossing her impossible features: curiosity, frustration, perhaps even admiration. You are instructive, she murmurs. Not powerful enough to challenge my existence, yet persistent enough to complicate it. Fascinating. The living tribunal's colossal presence shudders. This is unprecedented, he intones. You have created a variable that alters a cosmic constant. Eternity coils tighter, the fabric of reality bending around the subtle chaos. You have made her uncertain. Saturn Girl focuses, drawing all her energy into a single psychic pulse, aimed at the core of Perpetua's awareness. We may not win by strength, she whispers, but we can make you doubt. Perpetua pauses fully this time, her usual omniscience fractured, her plans interrupted not by brute force, but by courage and unpredictability. Even she, architect of multiverses, mother of endless realities, feels the tiniest brush of vulnerability. And in that pause, the Legion realizes something remarkable. The smallest acts of defiance, when united, can challenge a god. The multiverse trembles, caught between her power and their audacity, and for the first time, the Legion senses a possibility. Not of victory, but of lasting impact. What if the Legion realized that the fight with Perpetua had become more than survival? It had become a test of identity, forcing each hero to confront the very essence of who they were and what they stood for. The battlefield of the multiverse stretches infinitely in all directions, yet Saturn Girl feels every thread, every possibility twisting like a live wire in her mind. Perpetua hovers beyond comprehension, a force of nature that bends realities with mere thought, yet she is hesitant. That hesitation is enough to spark something within the Legion, not hope, but clarity. Brainiac 5 seconds fingers twitch as he calculates patterns within the chaos. Perpetua isn't attacking conventionally, he murmurs. She's probing, testing what we value, what we fear, and what we are willing to sacrifice. Lightning Lad sparks across the battlefield, arcs of energy illuminating the shifting fragments of existence. So every move we make isn't just about survival? He asks. It's about showing her who we are? Saturn Girl nods grimly, psychic energy flaring around her. Exactly, she sees everything, but she hasn't seen us. Mon-El hovers, looking down at the torn and fractured timelines below. If we fail, the universe bends to her will. But if we succeed, we prove that even a god can be challenged by choice. Cosmic Boy reshapes the fragments of broken reality into constantly moving barriers, not to attack, but to create confusion. Every shift, every improvisation, is a statement. They are alive, they are sentient, and they refuse to be controlled. Perpetua observes, her expression unreadable. You think identity can resist inevitability, she whispers, voice echoing across the multiverse. Fascinating, and flawed. Saturn Girl reaches deeper into her psychic reserves, connecting with the Legion not just as a team, but as a unified force of will. It's not flawed, it's human, and it's Kryptonian. It's what makes us unpredictable, what makes us alive. You can't calculate that. Perpetua's gaze sharpens, and for the first time, she shows subtle unease. Persistence. Individuality. They are variables I cannot control. They disrupt the pattern. The living tribunal leans closer, massive form trembling with the tension of watching a cosmic anomaly unfold. You are engaging an architectural constant in a way never allowed. This is unprecedented. Eternity coils tighter, threads of existence vibrating in resonance with the Legion's defiance. Choice, courage, identity. These forces are not predictable. The Legion realizes that this confrontation is no longer just a fight for survival. It is a declaration. Every act, every improvisation, every moment of defiance against Perpetua's logic is a proof of who they are. And that proof, that stubborn insistence on being more than variables, begins to wear on even a god. Perpetua tilts her head, her voice quiet but edged with fascination. Perhaps Perhaps there is more to life than the efficiency of inevitability. The Legion stands firm, psychic, physical, and emotional threads interwoven into a tapestry of resistance. Every move they make, every choice they assert, shakes the foundation of what Perpetua thought she could control. And somewhere deep within the multiverse, a faint, uncharted pulse resonates. A pulse born of the courage of those who refuse to be tools of fate. The battle is far from over, but the Legion has discovered a truth even Perpetua cannot ignore: identity, courage, and choice are weapons no god can fully master. What if the Legion realized that to truly survive Perpetua's return, they would have to embrace not just courage, but sacrifice? And that the cost could be everything they hold dear. The cosmos trembles, fractured but alive. Saturn Girl stands at the center, psychic energy radiating outward, connecting the Legion to every thread of reality they can influence. The battlefield is no longer physical, it exists in the realm of choice, of consequence, of potential futures. Every decision they make sends ripples across existence. Brainiac 5 seconds mind races, computing probabilities faster than light. The entity we confronted before. It was only a prelude. Every act of defiance has created strain. Perpetua can exploit that strain unless we sacrifice. Cosmic Boy looks around at the shifting fragments of reality, his voice low. Sacrifice? What are we talking about? Powers? Lives? Futures? Saturn Girl meets his gaze, eyes blazing with the weight of knowledge no one else can fully comprehend. All of it. Every timeline we touch, every possibility we hold, some of it must be surrendered. Not to her, but to ensure the multiverse doesn't unravel under her influence. Lightning Lad crackles in place, energy dancing across his body. So we win by losing? Yes, Saturn Girl whispers. By giving up what we cannot protect, we create what we can protect. It's the only way to bend even a god like her. Mon-El floats higher, scanning the infinite expanse, and clenches his fists. Then we decide, here and now, what matters most. Everything else, we let go. Perpetua observes, her form flickering with anticipation. Ah, she says softly, almost admiringly. Now you understand. True resistance requires sacrifice. But are you willing to pay the ultimate cost? Saturn Girl closes her eyes and focuses, reaching deep into the web of probabilities. She feels every possible future twisting, stretching, and breaking under the weight of her decision. The Legion watches, united, as she begins to select which threads to sever, which possibilities to release. Time seems to shiver. Stars flare and dim. The living tribunal leans forward, immense form tense. This is an ACT of cosmic significance, he declares. Your choices will resonate across all existence. Eternity hums, threads of reality pulsing in response. Sacrifice is necessary to preserve freedom. You are tested like never before. The Legion channels every ounce of courage, will, and unity into Saturn Girl's psychic guidance. Together they prune the impossible, stabilizing the multiverse, not by defeating Perpetua directly, but by choosing which potential must live. Perpetua's expression falters, just slightly. She recoils from the deliberate, calculated refusal to follow her pattern. You choose, she says, voice edged with both admiration and frustration. Even when I would have denied you that right. Saturn Girl opens her eyes, blazing with a mixture of exhaustion and defiance. We choose ourselves, she says firmly. We choose life, freedom, and the multiverse, even if it costs everything else. The cosmos quivers, stabilizing around their choice. Perpetua steps back, her form flickering as she reassesses. The Legion knows this is not the end. She will return. But for now, they have reclaimed the power of choice, and in doing so, secured a fragile, precious victory. What if the final confrontation with Perpetua was not about defeating her, but proving that even a god could not dominate the spirit of those who fight for choice, hope, and the future itself? The multiverse holds its breath. Saturn Girl, Lightning Lad, Cosmic Boy, Mon-El, and Brainiac 5 stand together, each bearing the weight of sacrifices made, futures relinquished, and lives saved. The cosmos shimmers around them, threads of reality weaving a fragile lattice of stability. Perpetua hovers before them, immense, incomprehensible, her form bending light, probability, and time itself into impossible geometries. You persist, she says, voice echoing through every corner of existence. You persist, despite the inevitability of your actions, despite the impossibility of your choices. Fascinating. Saturn Girl steps forward, psychic aura flaring bright enough to cast shadows across entire timelines. We persist, she says firmly. Not because we are perfect, not because we are unstoppable, but because we choose to be. Choice cannot be calculated, and courage cannot be quantified. That is why you cannot win. Perpetua tilts her head, an expression almost resembling curiosity passing over her impossible face. And yet, you do not fear me? Mon-El steps beside Saturn Girl. We do fear you. We fear losing everything, but fear doesn't stop us, it fuels us. Lightning Lad arcs energy across the battlefield, not to strike, but to create a dazzling display of chaos. Cosmic Boy shifts the fragments of shattered worlds into constantly moving constructs, forcing Perpetua to react. The Legion moves as one flawed, human, Kryptonian, heroic and perfectly unpredictable. Brainiac 5 murmurs under his breath, calculations flickering across psychic space. Her probability algorithms are breaking down. She cannot anticipate all outcomes simultaneously. For the first time, she is uncertain. Perpetua's form shudders, infinitesimal cracks appearing in her perception of the multiverse. You defy logic, she whispers. Persistence, choice, spirit. They are variables I cannot contain. Saturn Girl feels the culmination of everything, the sacrifices, the choices, the courage of the Legion, converging into one psychic force. You see now, she says softly but firmly, the future is not yours to dictate. The multiverse belongs to all who live in it, who fight for it, and who choose it every day. Perpetua pauses fully, the first time she has halted in the face of beings she once considered insignificant. The threads of probability she had manipulated for eons tremble, unraveling ever so slightly. Her voice is calm, tinged with awe. Perhaps there is more to existence than order and inevitability. Perhaps there is life. And with that, she begins to withdraw, folding herself back into the uncharted corners of reality she calls her own. Not defeated, not destroyed, but restrained, kept at bay by the unquantifiable, irreducible force of free will. The Legion watches, exhausted but triumphant, knowing the war is far from over. The multiverse is safe, for now. Futures remain fragile, but choice has survived. They have proven something no god, no architect of realities, can ever fully overcome: the indomitable power of intent, courage and heart. Saturn Girl lowers her psychic aura, turning to her teammates. We didn't defeat her, she says quietly, but we made her hesitate. That hesitation, that is ours. Mon-El smiles faintly, tired but resolute, and sometimes that's enough to change everything. The cosmos stretches around them. Not perfect, not static, but alive. A new equilibrium settles, fragile yet full of potential. Stars shimmer, timelines flow, and the Legion stands at the center of possibility itself. Far beyond the edge of perception, Perpetua watches, silent, patient, and calculating. She will return as she always does. But she knows now that the multiverse contains forces she cannot fully control, variables she cannot entirely predict. And for the first time, perhaps, that is a lesson she cannot ignore. The multiverse is vast, its dangers are infinite, but its defenders flawed, heroic, determined remain. And so the story ends not with destruction, but with choice. The end.